Hey everyone, if you had been watching my last video regarding oxygen training or oxygen therapy, I talked about hyperbaric chamber and who it's good for, who it might not be good for. This video, we are going to talk about EWOT, exercise with oxygen therapy. Okay, so the idea of EWOT is taking additional oxygen and adding it into the body via a face mask. So you are hooked up to some sort of system that is supplying oxygen to you. Now, regular air has about 21% oxygen, and an EWOT system should push your oxygen levels, oxygen saturation levels to probably about like 96, 97, 98, 99, even possibly 100% oxygen. So the cool thing about EWOT is it gives you a surplus of oxygen, but it's also based off of red blood cell carrying capacity. So basically the red blood cell floating throughout the body, it's going to dump off carbon dioxide and it's going to grab oxygen, put it on, circulate it throughout the body. Right? So that's very important. But at some point, it will max out of how much oxygen it can actually carry. Okay, so let's say your EWOT session is finished. You've been getting a surplus of oxygen for the last 20 minutes or so doing an active exercise. Remember, it's active where a hyperbaric chamber is passive where you're just laying there getting oxygen. EWOT is you physically have to do the work. There's no cheating. There's no easy way out. You are doing the work, which is why it's really beneficial for athletes to do. So if you finish that session of 20 minutes or so, a certain set protocol, depending on your sport, maybe each exercise is different depending on what sport you play, and your oxygen saturation levels have gone from a typical like 96% saturation up to like 98 or 99. At some point throughout the next few hours, days, whatever, it's going to start slowly dropping those oxygen levels back to where it's comfortable, which would probably be back to 96%. For most people. That's why it's important that we have protocols set in place so you're not just like doing a one-off session of oxygen training thinking like, oh, I'm going to play so much better. Where it really comes in handy is when we have set pre and post testing measurements. Either we have your VO2 max set before and after we do, a 3-month duration set program of EWOT, or we track your pulse oximeter readings and we follow a protocol and we say, hey, session 1, your pulse oximeter read this. And since then, it's now this. So where there's something measurable to be tracked so we can say with confidence, hey, this 1-month, 2-month, 3-month protocol of EWOT did help you and here's how it helped you. I think as a trainer, as a coach, as a former Division I athlete myself, the one thing with EWOT that actually really, really helps is the mental toughness. Because with EWOT, you're hooked up, you have this mask on, it's uncomfortable, everything, you're exhausted, you're sure you're getting a surplus of oxygen, but then you're having to make up for that surplus by exerting even more energy. So when we take you to a game situation on, game day, practice, whatever it is, you should have more resiliency mentally, physically. You're going to push harder. You're going to know you thought your threshold was here for your pain levels and your ability to push, but really you realize after all that EWOT training, maybe your ability is up here instead. And I think I'll conclude with, just like the hyperbaric chamber, EWOT, the exercise with oxygen therapy, if there's no pre and post measurements, it's kind of like just throwing crap against the wall to see if it sticks. It's like, did it work? Did it not work? Maybe, but if you have something that you're actually tracking, you can say and look at the data and say like, hey, I improved X amount. Hey, my VO2 went up X amount. Hey, this variable I was testing for went up or down whatever percentage or whatever your measurement is. I think people misuse some of these systems because they just don't know the physiology behind why they're doing it, or they think it just looks cool for social media or whatever it is. But there's always a method to the madness with what we do, at least. I can't speak for other people, but an EWOT system is hard to come by. They're hard to find. Not many people have them. They're expensive. They're not as expensive as hyperbaric chambers, but if you find it and you have a good coach that can really say, like, almost like an exercise physiologist that's going to say, this is what we're going to measure, give you a set plan and see how those things transfer to field play, how you feel, are your movements better, is your overall aerobic capacity better, whatever it might be, that in itself is a real secret weapon for a lot of athletes. If you are unsure how you can add any sort of oxygen style of training to your either lifestyle for overall wellness or for sports performance, if you're curious about hyperbaric chamber, an EWOT system, in the next video, I will also be talking about adaptive contrast or intermittent hypoxic training, which is actually what I think is even more superior to EWOT. So stay tuned for that.